Hello, and welcome to another Cloud Podcast, a podcast designed to bring you stories from the smartest minds in IT, operations, and business, and learn how they're using cloud technology to improve business and the customer experience. All right, well, welcome to another Cloud Podcast. We're excited today to have John Walker. He is the IT director over at H&M Bay. John, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you. Good morning.
And you're just telling us a little bit about the raspy voice because you're an avid fisherman and you're on the boat screaming instructions to people. So you're a little bit hoarse today, but nonetheless, it's great to have you and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
And of course, we have Jeff Young, our partner in crime, CIO over at the Confer Group, joining us as well today. Jeff, great to have you. Looks like you're at the lake house today.
Back at the lake house, ready for a long weekend, but great to be here with you and John. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's good. The long weekend's everyone's excited to either do fishing or have fun on the lake, all sorts of good stuff on Memorial Day weekend here.
John, looks like you're either going to the mountains or going surfing.
Trying to. We'll see. This is a packing weekend for us. We're actually moving out of town in a couple of weeks, so it's a working weekend, but it'll still be fun on Memorial Day. We'll have a little party and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's great to have the extra day off and get some R&R for sure compared to just continuing the grind every single day. But John, what I'd like to do is just have the audience learn a little bit more about you. We know that you're the IT director over at H&M. Tell us a little bit about what H&M does and just your journey in IT on getting there and how you ended up at H&M Bay.
Yeah, H&M Bay is a less than truckload carrier. We don't have our own trucks, but we take orders from customers, and all of the orders when we take them are based around one of our areas where we pick up. So we have a dock in New England, Mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Kent, Washington, and in Los Angeles. And we pick up freight in that area and then bring it all into a dock, consolidate it, and actually not consolidate as much as reshuffle it. In other words, we have people pick up freight and bring it into our dock, and it's not the freight that they're going to haul. They unload their truck, and then we load them with a load going somewhere in the United States. So what it enables is people that live within our pickup ranges that generally it's food, but any refrigerated or frozen product, they can ship a pallet instead of having to buy a whole truck. Back before H&M got into this, and some other people have too, but about 40 years ago, prior to that, if you wanted to, like a local company like Purdue wanted to sell chicken in Chicago, it would have to send a full truck and then find some place to store it and ship it out of, where we can deliver it directly to your end customer and enable companies to, we might pick up a whole truckload from them, but then we're going to deliver it all over the country. So we bring it into here, one of our drivers would pick it up, bring it into here, and then they would end up on 28 different trucks going out all over the United States. So key to that is our computer system, and that's how I came to H&M. I was brought here to design one when they had an older system that really couldn't be moved up technology-wise.
Yes, talk a little bit about the that computer system. So I mean, you've been there. Looks like about almost 18 years now. Computer systems 18 years ago obviously are a lot different than they are today. How's that evolved since you've been there and designed it originally to how it looks today?
Well, really, honestly, for us, it hasn't had to evolve a whole lot. We were building on what would then maybe be called leading edge technology. So it was a web-based application at that time, and it took 5 years to develop. So it's really only been in production probably for like 13 years, 14 years, something like that.
Okay. One of the interesting things, obviously the pandemic's been on top of everyone's mind, but as of late, everyone's talking about the supply chain being broken and, costs of goods are going up, like lumber and, anything, cement, anything that has to do with a supply chain. How has that been for you guys being a logistics company on just how busy you've been or how challenges just around the demand for goods and services? How has that affected you guys?
Well, see, it's kind of, food and liquor are two things that don't really care about what else is going on in the world.
Mhm.
People are in their house, shut up. Guess what? They're still eating food.
Yeah.
There before the pandemic, and everyone's going out and having a good time. Everyone's eating food. It really doesn't make any difference. So the only real impact, we had some impacts obviously, but the main impact was immediately lots of places closed. So then our business went to hell. So we actually ended up a couple million short last year because of it, when it all hit. But that didn't take long before people said, wait a minute, we got to go to work. So, we'll wear masks and social distancing, the whole spiel.
Yeah.
So we had to do things, we had to make procedural changes at the dock. Here in the office, we don't have a lot of people coming in and out, sales folks and things like that. Customers sometimes want to come visit. So that pretty much stopped. But where it's more important is at the docks, because we don't have our own trucks. So we take all this freight and we build these loads, and we're not really a true broker. We do broker the freight out to owner operators, generally just, an operator that has a single truck. In some cases, they might have multiple trucks and have a couple people that work for them, but we don't deal with any large companies. They're just small. Well, when these guys come to the dock, they normally go on the dock, help unload their freight, load their freight, and we couldn't have anybody on the dock. So they had to make some procedure changes for getting the paperwork from them, because in transportation, there must be a bill of lading that travels with the product. So you are forced to deal with paper. There are companies that are trying to make it fully electronic, but in reality, it's very difficult because your shipper is going to hand you a piece of paper, So anyhow, there's some procedural things, but other than that, our business is good. It's normal. Its capacity is the issue. With all the money that was given out by the federal government to people, and they're buying these, consumer goods. And when trucks get tight, you've probably seen the backlog of containers at mostly California, but at other ports as well. When there's a volume of these things going on, then it's obviously going to be some people getting a premium to haul freight that they can't find freight for. So we have lost some capacity due to, or let me say, we can't get additional capacity. So we're kind of stuck. Even though we have sales staff, their marching orders are go make your current customers happy. Don't even bring a big account in here because we can't find the trucks. So it's caused us to also do some technology things. So we've been working with a product by a company called Trucker Tools. It's called Smart Capacity, where we are posting loads to their network, and then it matches them to drivers that are using their app, because when they're using the Trucker Tools app, the Trucker Tools app was originally offered to drivers as a tool to find places to park their truck, where to get the cheapest fuel, to keep track of things like to scan, take pictures of / scan bills of lading and send that stuff into whoever your freight broker is, that sort of thing. Then they came to the freight brokers and said, hey, you can use this product to track your drivers, kind of like in a company that has their own trucks, they might put an actual device in the cab that has GPS tracking and allows them to give that driver instructions and all. There's a lot of automation, but we have people that haul for us one time. So we can't go install a system in their cab. So these phone-based apps made that something that we could do. And I actually had the idea of doing that a long time ago, the very same thing. But my boss didn't want to do it, because one of the things that happens in trucking, it's real heavy right now, especially in California, where they want you to classify these drivers as employees and not as vendors if you do a certain amount of control of them. So my boss was leery of doing it until Trucker Tools came out with the same exact thing. And I'm like, well, why are you so high on it now? Well, now this isn't us. They've already broken into the market. They've fought all the battles that it's okay to use this tool. So we're just going to be another user. It's not going to be us doing it, and then it'd be more control, right? If it's a custom app from us that we're making them use, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow,
Right.
so now they've got an additional piece they've come out with, and there are other companies, but Trucker Tools is probably the leading one. Again, of matching. You know, we've always had load boards, but a load board, we go and we say we're looking for a truck, and we put it on the board. If we forget to take that off of there, it's sitting there, and people will call about it, whatever. You can't trust it. You know, truckers go out and say, "Oh, I'm looking for a load," okay, and they post it in, you know, Kent, Washington, and they immediately get in their truck and start driving. So they're not, within 3 or 4 hours, they're not really there anymore. Yeah, they can turn around, but they're not just going to sit somewhere. They always are going somewhere. If nothing else, they're heading home or heading where they know they can get a load, right? Well, the Trucker Tools app, if we're tracking them, that they know exactly where they're at. If they're using the app to track a load, like for us, they know where he's going. And I keep saying he, I'm speaking of drivers, and there are she's, you know, excuse me, but they know where the truck is going. They know when the truck is supposed to do its last delivery. They know when, you know, if I've posted a load wanting to get one, they know when I want a driver to start picking up and where. So they call it AI, machine learning, and I'm not so sure that that's really, you know, that nomenclature is being used for everything, which is not, it's not necessary. You know, if you're just matching time and place, you don't need really what I would call artificial intelligence or machine learning. But you know, that's just a nice tool to be able to find capacity. So we are doing some things like that right now, integrate with some other load boards for the same purpose, to make it easier for our dispatchers to find a truck to cover a load.
You know, John, when you say load boards, does that also include, I would expect you know where a particular customer's order is on the truck, correct? So they know it's the third delivery upcoming, or fourth or fifth, or whatever it may be. Do you know the location on the truck of the merchandise as well?
Well, when you're trying to find a driver, the freight isn't moving yet. So here's our process. So all week long, the way we do LTL is it's a weekly shipment. So you might want us to come pick something up on a Tuesday and deliver it on a Thursday. We don't do that.
Okay.
We'll pick it up on Thursday or Friday, bring it to our docks on Saturday, unload the trucks and reload them and send them out. So however long it takes their load to get that way. So, and our customers get on that, the rhythm of that. They'll, you know, and their customers get on a rhythm of that, of ordering stuff by Friday to be delivered the following week. You know, it may be early in the week, later in the week, depends on how far away they are from their supplier.
Mm-hmm.
So we take all those orders, we build the loads. Even before we have a driver, we have people calling the locations, making appointments. You know, I give them tools. We integrate with a product, PC Miler and ALK Maps. It's actually now, it's been bought and renamed. Trying to think of the name of the company that bought them, but it's geo software that allows me to give them a map, give them the time and distance between each stop, apply the hours of service rules so they know, oh, this guy's got a rest for so many hours here. It's not just, back in the day, not too long ago, we didn't have to worry about that. We just told them, oh, no, you just can drive and then you can sleep, because there's always a delay at every one of our stops. Well, that doesn't count anymore. They need to really take a on-purpose break at a particular time. Doesn't matter if you're waiting to unload your truck or your truck's unloading, that is not break time anymore. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, we give them these tools so they lay it all out. So we know where the truck is supposed to be, you know, at certain days and times. And then we find someone to haul for that. And so we tell them, these are the stops. This is how long it's going to take. Here's how much we'll pay you. And then once they come in on a dock on a Saturday, they see all this signs telling them to download this, you know, and you know, a scan code so they can scan it and install the application on their phone. But honestly, most drivers have it now. Not company drivers, because they might have a device in their, you know, in their truck cab. But for ones that run different loads for different companies, owner operators, they have the app already. So come Saturday noon, we send out all these text messages by posting the loads to Trucker Tools, and those people get a message saying, we want to track you. H&M wants you to haul this load. And it doesn't just track them, it also gives them basically the information we would give them on a paper load sheet, showing them where their stops are and what their appointments are and what the phone numbers are, and all that kind of stuff is all built into the app too. So it helps them. And then when they get within 1 mile of each stop, we get a geofence post to our system saying the guy has arrived. That's basically what we consider it. Mm-hmm. And we use that to try to drive down detention, because one of the biggest problems that we had when when they came out with the hours of service rules, all this stuff that I saw in most of the magazines and, my tech newsletters was about, now the drivers really can't drive too many hours. Well, no one ever really drove too many hours. You can't drive constantly. I'm not saying no one did that, but that was old school. That, people were taking their breaks. What the problem is what happens if a guy shows up to unload and they don't let him unload for 10 hours? Okay, well, he used to sleep then, but you can't do that now, not unless you wait all the way till when your time window comes for a break. If it happens to line up, you could say you're on break, but if not, that doesn't count. So we had to come up with ways of telling these people, you can't do this. So we're charging our shippers for detention, and they're getting a warning within an hour if that guy's still showing at the location. So it's not an attempt to drive money out of our shippers, who they're going to get out of their customers, because most of these places that we're waiting to unload or load is the customer's location, or our shipper's location, or their customers, because we're usually picking up at the shipper, delivering it to their consignee or customer. So it's just a way to try to drive down the detention and to keep the wheels moving. And all of that has been very positive.
Yeah.
For the industry. I mean, that part of it's been positive.
Yeah, you're doing all refrigerated goods, right, John?
Yeah, fresh and frozen, pretty much. Yeah, we do some dry, but that's not our right. bread and butter. That's not where we shine.
So with that, your bread and butter, I'm sure you want those docks ready to receive your goods, is my point. So, and not only does it help your drivers and your schedule, I'm sure it has an impact on the quality of the goods. So.
Well, no, I guess fresh to some degree, but we have very stringent temperature requirements on our trucks. We use a device called a Locust Track that goes with our freight. It's about a $50 disposable device that has a built-in cell, built-in temperature, and it reports through cellular, it reports to their servers. That's an Emerson product. And then we pick that up. So we have another way of tracking them. We know where they're at, and we know what the temperature of the freight is. And if it gets anywhere near getting out of boundaries, dispatchers are all sent emails and text messages with temperature graphs so they can, follow up and talk to the driver. That's not the biggest thing. It's more the truck. If the truck goes to its first stop and stays there 10 hours instead of 1 hour, he's 9 hours behind. So the next appointment is wrong, the next appointment is wrong, the next appointment. And some of these places, some of the bigger customers, I'll just come out and say one Walmart is terrible. Basically, you better call on Monday and set your appointment for the following week. And if you don't make it, you might not be able to get unloaded. You might have to go, and this is stuff that Walmart ordered, but this is how they run their ship. Is they say, look, we can't handle you guys coming and going when you feel like it. You tell us you're going to be here at 8 o'clock on Friday morning, you better be here at 8 o'clock Friday morning. Now, on the good side, if you are there at 8 o'clock Friday, they will get you unloaded. So and that's because they're not dealing with this one's late, and he's not supposed to be here. Oh, this other guy's here who is supposed to be here. You don't have to deal with that. But on the other hand, it may mean, sorry, customer, we're going to drop this at Preferred Cold Storage, and we'll get it redelivered to you. But all of that's going to cost money. Preferred's going to want $100 to keep it 2 or 3 days, and then we're going to have another truck come up here, a local truck, and he's going to want $200 or $300 to deliver it. So all of this has been, in attempts to minimize all that. And that has gotten better because shippers have had to, and consignees, people buying freight, they've had to change their shipping to be more astringent and try to, keep up with timelines too.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone is trying to keep those wheels moving, and all that happened kind of right before COVID, that it all kind of wound up, and then that's all still been happening. But anyhow, that's how
this
that
is
works.
interesting, Alex. When you think about it, listening to John talk, this is so educational. And you think about, you pass semis all day on the highway, and look at the technology that's behind this shipment, just to monitor truck temperature, to monitor location, to coordinate schedules. It's phenomenal how much technology is behind a single truck going from A to B,
Yeah, there really is. I'm curious,
It's awesome.
John, besides like all the technology that you guys have on the trucks and what you're using to track all the shipments, how does it look internally, right? Managing IT for the organization as a whole, and what are some of the challenges that you've faced just over the years, and more importantly, like just recently, right? Or any challenges that come up or things that keep you up at night where you're like, these are some big things that keep the wheels turning there in your head on what's coming and what risks to avoid.
Well, honestly, our IT is very easy. And I say that because I came from manufacturing and banking. And this is not, it's just one facet of, manufacturing. We had transportation too. And we had to print bills, and we had to schedule, shipments, but that's all that we do. So it's a very focused scope. So that's one nice thing that I knew right from the beginning. That to me, it was like, I told him it'd be like semi-retiring, in that we don't, instead of having 800 people working on a shop floor based off of your computer system, you've got these trucks rolling. It just seemed that, there was going to be a much smaller scope to focus on. And the two owners were very supportive of having a custom application built to run the business. So in addition to what I have, all we needed was a back-end accounting system, and they already had purchased Microsoft Dynamics Navision, and they hadn't implemented much of it yet, but they had it, and they hadn't been able to implement it because 90% of it has to be fed from the transportation management system, because most of what we pay out is pay the trucks. Most of what we charge our customers is coming off of the orders. So until I designed that integration and we built that part, they really couldn't do much. They were doing payroll and like miscellaneous accounts payable, but that was it. So, and they were also willing, when I talked to them, even though there was kind of a tight timeline because their system was built on some old Unix equipment and they really couldn't upgrade. So at some point it could have become a problem, not being able to find parts for their old computers. But they weren't so worried about it when I said, here's the thing, though, guys, I need to learn your business. In order for this to work, I can't sit down and start writing the system tomorrow. I can only do that and I can't even do it tomorrow, but I could do it quickly if you tell me to mimic exactly what you have. But that is not what you should do. So I had to learn what they did. I had to sit down. I spent months sitting with people, giving them ideas, telling them what I was going to do, and so it was, like I said, it was like a 5-year investment before they ever really had anything much to show for it. The one caveat that they did then, there were a couple things that they really needed badly. Oh, and let me say that I had already built them a customer extranet and some internal tools working for a consulting company that they brought in prior to that.
Okay.
So I had some prior knowledge of this customer. And I had to change jobs because I went through a divorce and my 16-year-old daughter wanted to live with me, so I couldn't be traveling all the time. So anyhow, I put in for a blind ad and I came over here to do some work, and he handed me my resume back. And I was like, what's this? I'm like, how'd you get this? Oh, yeah, I'm P.O. Box. Oh, yeah, really? Okay. So anyhow, that's normally you're not allowed to quote unquote poach a consultant, but I applied and it wasn't to H&M, it was to a blind ad. So according to our terms, it was okay. He just couldn't approach me. That's really what it amounted to. So I had
Well,
some prior
John-
knowledge. So when they knew it was I'm almost done with this point. I'm almost there. Is that they said, if we're going to wait all that time to get it, here's a couple things we really want you to fix right away. So I had to build a little system for paying the drivers, and they used to do it on these pieces of paper and use these little card terminals. It's called Comdata, is the company that fuels the transportation industry. Like if you go to a big convenience store, you'll see a sign that says Comdata is accepted here. Well, that's how you can pay them through this system, and then they can give them cash, let them get fuel, food, whatever. So there was a couple things we had to do, but then they waited. So why is it easy then? Well, we only really have two systems. We don't have 20 different soloed systems, and Microsoft or Dynamics Vision was built on SQL Server. So I built this new system on SQL Server, and I actually can query Navision directly and then built interfaces for things where we wanted to update it. So it's very tightly coupled. There's no redundancy in their work. They are so much. I'm tooting my own horn here, but the company is much better off. It's so much easier for them to do the things that they do. But they were using an archaic system. It didn't take a genius to come in here and build them a new system from scratch and become a hero. I mean, come on. I mean, they had old, 20-some-year-old stuff that had never been changed, and that was before, and it was all on Unix, green screen stuff. I mean, it was not a big deal. So anyhow, that means that we only have to manage a couple things. Now, when I came here, I wasn't the IT director. I was just brought here as a supervisor of applications development. And I'd been an IT director at 2 prior jobs. I welcomed the fact that I was going to, quote unquote, step down and just focus on the software, because that's really where I came up from. I mean, it was my dad's idea to go and try it. And I was a programmer way early on. I mean, I used cards when I was in college. So
same here.
So I didn't come through the hardware part. To be perfectly honest, I didn't want anything to really do with it initially because of its cantankerousness. What's wrong with it? Oh, we have no idea. When we restarted it, everything's fine. That kind of stuff does not sit well with me. It just doesn't fit my brain. When something goes wrong, people get all bent out of shape. Why don't you go fix it right away? Wait a minute. We got to figure this out, and we don't want it to happen again. Like, oh, this made this order wrong. Can you jump in there and go do that? No, I'm not. I need that evidence to figure out what's wrong, because I want to fix it one time and never hear about it ever again. And if you're good at software development, you absolutely can do that. So I wasn't the IT director. I had never been in the data center at all, ever. I remoted into my servers and did what I needed to do, and I never went in there. Well, my boss got fired because we kept having this. They use this network attached storage for SQL Server. That's something you should never ever do. And I didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. SAN is the way to go now, of course, but that's with that's shared among multiple servers, etc. But anyhow, 2 different Fridays in a row, the system went down for a while, and all it did was go offline. Nothing, database was fine, nothing crashed, everything was there, but the storage just became disconnected and didn't connect. And when they took him a while to fix it both times, he got fired. And we all were reporting to the head of accounting for a while, and he didn't like that after, dealing with the infrastructure people. So they promoted me. Well, then there was a lot to do. A lot kept me up then because my boss got fired because of the system being down. So now I'm in charge of the same friggin' system that could go down tomorrow. Okay, so I had to do a lot of jumping through hoops immediately, built new SQL servers to make sure the initial problem didn't happen. But when I went in the server room, I asked the guy, one of the infrastructure guys, that goes, okay, where is I don't remember the name of the SQL server. Just let me say it was SQL 002. Where is it? Oh, I'm not sure. It's labeled. They're all labeled, right? No, they're not labeled. I go over,
Oh, no.
this one isn't even on. This isn't even on. What is this? Oh, and that's where he's not. And I've met so many infrastructure people like that.
Oh,
And if
no.
any of you are infrastructure people that are listening to this, I'm sorry if this offends you, but there's just so much of this shade tree mechanic kind of thing. It's screwed up. Oh, jiggle this, do that. Oh, it's fixed. Fine. Move on to the next thing. Where I go, wait a minute. How can I not make sure this never happens again? And I have some infrastructure guys now that are like that. The ones that were here when I took the job were not like that. And consequently, they're no longer here. That didn't happen right away, but over time. But we have a virtualized environment. We have a disaster recovery. I feel really good about our infrastructure. We have redundancy in all areas. I feel good about our business continuity and disaster recovery. So what keeps me up at night now is security, because nobody, if anybody you have on here ever tells you they're not worried about that, then they need to find another job, because they better get worried about it.
They better.
And I don't
You're
care.
right.
I don't care if you spend 90% of a giant IT budget on security. Your biggest chance of being down, in my mind, is the security vulnerability. You should
That's
never
correct.
stop working on it. And you can only afford to pay so much into this business. And you pay it what you can, and you work hard on it, but that should be what worries you. It is what worries me. I mean, I think we do a lot.
John.
We're getting, I mean, that's the bottom line, and it will be that way forever, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll tell you what, Alex, one of the things with John, first off, John, you should be commended, I think. I mean, I love that you took 5 years to develop this tool. I love that you were patient and your company would let you be patient so that you could learn and build exactly what they need. And then kudos to you. This has been live 13 years. So you built something that now sustained the test of time for 13 years in a pandemic. I think you should be very proud and applaud yourself and your company and your management team for your efforts. So I just wanted to throw that in there, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And security is on top of everybody's mind. At least all the CIOs or VPs and directors we talk to in IT, is security seems to be top of mind for everything. I mean, that's why Jeff and his group are putting together a security, series, because it is top of mind. And no matter how secure you are, there's still the human element, right? And that's one of the biggest vulnerabilities, is just human error, clicking on that link in the email, or if it's nefarious and they bring in a USB drive and plug it in, it's always going to be there. And it's just, how much do you want to spend on it, right? And figuring out what that looks like, and how to keep it going. So we've got a few more minutes here. What I'd like to, just touch on really quickly for the next 2 or 3 minutes is just your view on security and what you've done to, not like giving away what you do, because obviously that's a security risk, but what you see as things that are working as a good progress being made in the security realm.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that, if someone's just getting into this, and I'm hard to believe how many companies there are out there that have a substantial computer network and really don't do a whole lot, is to get yourself assessed. And the first one hurt my feelings, because security has been a learning process for me at this job, because in my old job as an IT director, we were very tight-looped. I mean, initially we used some corporate, it was called mainframe computer resources, but we had dedicated line between us and them. No one could hack that T1 line to get in, and it was just us had access to it. And it was a long time there before we even provided internet access, and just wasn't, we were on a VAX computer system. It's not something that was going to get hacked into. No, it wasn't a target. It wasn't a target platform. That was all Unix stuff in the beginning of Windows. And to me, Windows then, and I thought of it for the most part as a joke. Later on, we had to expose a little bit more. So we got into security some, but it has just really blown up, in the time that I wasn't in charge of that, remember. So my first, I don't know, 8, probably 10 years, maybe even more here, I wasn't doing it. Well, that's when it was going all over the place. So I come into it and we get assessed, and I was always of the opinion, you just fortify your your perimeter. And that's all you worry about. Oh no, the first thing they wanted to do, okay, well, we're going to attack your outside, everything that you've got exposed to the outside world. But then you need to let us come in and we're going to get on your network and we're going to see what we can find out and do. I'm like, well, why would you do? If you think that security means keeping people out, you're crazy. They're going to get in. So I was like, oh, well, I already know we got a lot to do. And we've been doing that and getting reassessed again and addressing it. That is your best way of knowing, is to get at someone else. And I actually like the idea of getting different companies. If someone wants to do an assessment and then tell you, we would like to, as part of this, come back at a much cheaper rate and reassess you at the end, that's great. But if you wait after you've done all this, remediation of these issues, bring somebody different in and have them come at you and see what they come up with, because you're just going to get better and better and better. Beyond that, is to get some type of, I'll call it SOC, but that's being used for a lot of different things. But a company that puts a device on your network that sees what's hitting you from the outside, what's going on in the inside, and looks for malicious patterns, looks for things that we never knew. We have I've had firewalls since forever, but when we didn't even know when we would have someone trying to get in, so you just block them entirely. So basically, because we're a U.S. based company, we have the ability pretty much to block anything outside of this country, except for the few customers that we have. And we have several, but, a lot of the fishing industry is out of Norway and of, things of that nature. So we have to allow certain IPs, but we work with them and we're even willing to do things to help them to get a fixed IP address, for instance, anything to make it so that we don't have to open up the entire country. But we don't have customers in China or in Russia, which are the only two names you hear, 90% of the time when it's in, a big deal. So, they're like the military. They look at all this stuff. They say they use artificial intelligence, machine learning. Again, I always put tick marks around that when people say it, because it's just such a hot buzzword, and every computer system has some smarts to it, even if it's just adding 1 + 2 or A does not equal B, right? If this is true or not. But they just treat it. These guys all came from military, from that part of military, and they treat it all like a war, and they open up situation, documents and suggest us to do stuff. And we just keep getting, stronger and stronger through those two ways of getting input from someone outside of the company telling you should do something different here. One that can actually see what's going on inside of us all the time, and another one who comes in and tries to penetrate our defenses.
Yeah, those are really good points.
It caused us. The things I learned were amazing. We were using Microsoft Terminal services. Well, none of the user IDs and passwords that were being sent on our network were encrypted. I'm like, who designed something like that? Why would you? How can you have user IDs and passwords that aren't encrypted? So anyhow, so we had a lot to do. We replaced that with Citrix. I'm talking some of these investments were healthy, but they needed to be done. When I was happy with our infrastructure and knew that our servers weren't going to go down next Friday, it was the next thing I had to go to him with. Because if he didn't want to do it, the owner's son runs the company, so it's really a very small group of people that are making the decisions on these investments. It's like, if you want to keep running, this is what we need to do next. And he came right along.
Right.
He came right along.
Great. Yeah, very good.
Well, I tell you what, John, it's been absolutely great having you on, and I love this security topic, and we could probably talk another hour just on security and how it's changing. But I love what you said. Get assessed from different companies, right? It's like going to the doctor and getting multiple opinions, and then having that that managed SOC, someone watching the traffic trying to come in, watching we've all seen that map of the attacks coming to the U.S. from Russia and China and these other areas in the Eastern Bloc, right? Just bombarding different areas. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, like I said, and thank you for jumping on and enjoy the long weekend. Hopefully you get out there and get some more fishing done and get some more sea bass for the wife. And, we appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank
Great
you.
discussion. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
You got it. Well, that wraps up the show for today. Thanks for joining. And don't forget to join us next week as we bring another guest in to talk about the trends around cloud contact center and customer experience. Also, you can find us at adleradvisors.com, LinkedIn, or your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week on another Cloud Podcast.